In this video, we're going to make over 3 small items, and we're going to provide lots of texture and lots of fun. Project 1, we're going to take a used coffee can. That's right. We're going to make this into a beautiful canister. We're going to use DIY paint and black velvet. You're going to take an artist brush or whatever brush you have on hand, and you're going to apply a really good coat. Don't overwork the paint. DIY paint is clay-based, and it covers great, and you might need more than one coat. Then we're going to take Iron Orchid Designs air dry clay. You're going to work it in your hands, and we're going to roll it out. Make it nice and smooth, as big as you want it, and then we're going to take an Iron Orchid Design decor stamp. Here we're going to take the toile stamp, and we're going to apply pressure. You can do it with your hand, and then we're going to go ahead and put glue on the back. I prefer Type-on glue. It makes a great impression. Now let's go ahead and turn it backwards and apply some glue. I prefer Type-on glue. Then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's adhered to the canister all over so that there aren't any air pockets. And then at all the edges, I'm going to go ahead and smooth it out to thin it out to kind of taper into the canister. Then I'm going to take DIY Paint's black velvet and paint the clay to match the canister. I took a little bit of letterpress gray and added a little bit of water to make a wash, just to give it some extra dimension, and I applied it only to the area where the clay was. Then we're going to seal it with DIY Paint's clear wax. It's buttery smooth. It is the best wax, and it's so durable. I'm just using a chip brush, and I'm going to go ahead and seal it. Just one coat all over. As you can see, it darkens up. Then we're going to take some white wax, and this is going to make everything come to life. And I'm going to remove the wax on the high points. Then I found this finial, and I thought it would be a good idea to glue that on. I did white wax it. I ended up changing out the finial for a little knob, but you could use whatever you have on hand. And I just used E6000 to apply the finial. I'm taking a Q-tip to take out the excess. And as you can see, here she is. Now you don't want to use it, you want to let it dry. Now let's go to project 2. Here I'm taking DIY Paint's bead board, and we're going to mix it with baking soda. About equal parts. You can do it a little bit less or a little bit more, just depends on how much texture you want, but I think 50-50 is a good start. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stipple on the paint with a chip brush. I forgot to take the sticker off the bottom. I realized it once I hit it, so make sure you take your stickers off. It covers very, very well, and it gives it a ceramic texture. You'd never know that this was a glass vase, and a cheap one at that. I went ahead and I also put it in the inside so that you wouldn't be able to see the orange color. I let it dry all the way, and then I wanted a little bit of dimension in it. So I took some tarnished pearl and I watered it down, and I put it on with the chip brush. This also helps to hide some of the orange that was peeking through in certain sections. I just applied it with the chip brush all over, and then I took a baby wipe and I blotted it to remove some of the tarnished pearl. So I wanted a little bit more texture, and I added back a little bit here and there of the bead board with the soda. It just makes it look aged and worn. Then all I did was took a little bit of clear wax to seal it. Project number 3. Here I took a cigar box that I found in a Goodwill, and it had some kind of an emblem or something on there, and the glue was still there, so I sanded that down, and I just took a baby wipe and cleaned it up, took all the stickers off, and then she was ready to paint. Now inside was already decoupaged, a really pretty piece of a man in a carriage, a horse and carriage, and so I wanted to keep that on there. So I cleaned it up with the baby wipe, and then I took tarnished pearl and I applied the tarnished pearl to the top, the sides, the back, and the front. I left the actual back side the same wood color. I didn't paint that part. The underside. After she dried up, I went ahead and applied a second coat, and then I took my molds. First, I started with Classic Elements. They're made by Iron Orchid Designs, and they are amazing molds. The castings are so detailed. I chose 2 from this particular mold, and then I just worked the clay in it, and then I took my tool so that I could get an even back, and then I flip it over and it just pops right out. And it does that because I did apply some cornstarch before I put the clay in. Then the other mold is acanthus. These 2 are my favorite molds just for generic castings, and they make such great embellishments on any piece. And here I'm using some flourishes that I particularly love. So again, I'm using my tool so that I can take the back off and make it nice and even because I want a good adhesion. Then I'm just playing around with the design and how I want to lay it out. And once I have it exactly how I want it, then I start gluing it with the Type Bond glue. What you want to do is you want to make sure that all of your edges are going down and adhering to your piece. And every now and then you probably want to hit it and just make sure that it's laid down properly. I've just taken a baby wipe and I'm distressing the paint just so that it could look worn and old. I love that look, and it looks amazing with that wood undertone. You always want to be careful with your clay castings because since they're fresh, you can hurt them in a sense because they're still very wet and pliable. So the end of the piece of this particular paper wasn't glued down, so I just took a little bit of Type Bond glue with a craft stick and applied it to the edges to make sure that it stayed down. And then a little bit of the paper was coming out the sides and it was hindering the box from opening and closing properly, so I just took a blade and I cut off the edge. Then I took DIY Big Top and I sealed the paper. Then I sealed the box with clear wax, and then I also brought out all of the details of those castings with DIY Paint's black wax. It just grunges it up and it makes it look amazing. I took a small detailed brush along with the DIY Paint rounded brush to smudge and to get into all of the grooves and crevices, and then I took a lint-free cloth and just wiped back. Then in order to get some detail on the highlight parts, I used a little bit of white wax. And as you can see, the clay is amazing. It adds so much texture, whether it was stamped or it was in the mold. And then of course the baking soda and the paint provides a great texture. To purchase DIY paint, you can go on DIYpaint.co to find a retailer near you or shop on my website. Thank you for watching.